Okay, the SAG nominations just came out a few hours ago for 2017 in the film and the TV races. We're going to talk about the film races in this slugfest. We're going to do TV races in another slugfest. But there were quite a few surprises for the SAG film nominations, and one huge snub. Chris, I'm going to come to you. What was snubbed, and what does this mean for the Oscars going forward?
Well, the Best Picture frontrunner for the Oscars that's going to probably win the Globe and it just won Critics' Choice, La La Land, is not here. We all wondered. I mean, it's really a two-person movie. We're talking about Ensemble, but the reason I left it in is they like that tradition of the best ensemble doesn't always win Best Picture, but it's other than Braveheart, it's always nominated. And they did nominate like Beast of No Nation last year, which was really a one person they'd ever heard of ensemble and two kids. They also nominated on the TV side Key and Peele, which is two people. So that's why I thought with La La Land being such an obvious Oscar frontrunner that they would put it in here, especially over Captain Fantastic. I mean, the other four are very logical, but that one I didn't see coming.
The other four are Fences, Hidden Figures, Manchester by the Sea, and Moonlight. I think Captain Fantastic is the big surprise there, right, Daniel?
Yeah, it is. It's there were a lot of potential films that could have taken that spot, like Hell or High Water, which has been surging lately. Hacksaw Ridge has a large cast of soldiers. 20th Century Women, which was snubbed across the board, is such an ensemble movie that could have made an impact here.
Lion, which has two individual nominations.
Yeah, and so it's surprising that of all those they went with Captain Fantastic. I don't think that demonstrates strength for the film overall in the awards race, but it kind of reminds me of when Hustle and Flow got in a few years ago. Like that, it got into ensemble. Vigo is a very, very strong contender now for Best Actor. He might knock out, as he did today at the SAG Awards, he might knock out Joel Edgerton.
And Zach, a few weeks ago, you told me, I don't think La La Land's getting in. And I'm like, you're crazy. It's going to win Best Picture. So, looking backwards from there, that means it has to at least be nominated here. But did you end up predicting it?
I chickened out at the last minute and put it in my predictions because I thought that it was just me trying to insert more suspense into this race than was necessary. For all the reasons that we mentioned, it's really a two-person movie. The supporting cast is really just a bunch of cameos by SAG members like Rosemary DeWitt and J.K. Simmons. But I figured that the overall love for this movie was so strong that actors would just nominate it for ensemble. And they did nominate Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. So obviously they have seen the movie and liked it enough to nominate it for something. But going forward, I mean, I'm not ready to say that this kills its chances altogether. But this does happen early enough. If this had happened after the Producers Guild and the Directors Guild and all the other guilds had announced, then maybe it wouldn't be such a shock for us. You know what I mean? Because it would have shown some industry support across the board already. But I think that this happening now, this early on, gives enough time for another movie to become the front runner for Best Picture.
I disagree. I think this is such a front runner year. I think every year the past 5 or 6 years, some big trend that's existed for years has been broken. And I think that's what's just going to happen here. I mean, by the time Ben Affleck didn't get the DGA nomination, we all said, well, that doesn't happen but once every quarter century, but it's winning everything, so it's not really going to matter this year. Or we should have paid more attention on Birdman when it didn't get editing. It was, it was a trend that had, not been broken in a long time, but there it was. So
we invited you here today to get your honest opinion about this new car.
Ads keep popping up. Go ahead.
No, I think it's just going to be one of those things that last year's PGA. Going with Big Short. None of us were picking Big Short really by the end, even though PGA is almost always right. So I think it's just going to be one of those things that's just kind of a fluke.
I feel like I should point out, though, that Argo did get a SAG Ensemble nomination and did win SAG Ensemble. So even though it didn't have that director nomination at the Academy, it still had the overall support of the actors branch. I'm not saying that La La Land is not going to
I
win
think
Best
everybody important to La La Land got nominated today.
Okay, yeah, 2 people. But what do we say all the time? What do we say
If
all
they
the
had overlooked, say, Ryan, I don't think they were going to overlook Emma. I would be getting concerned, but I'm not. You're not going to get me off La La Land all the way to the end of February. You're just not. There's nothing that could possibly happen that's going to take, unless
it loses every.
unless Damien is suddenly imprisoned. It's not going to happen.
What if, though? Okay, so that if it doesn't get nominated for Best Picture, you'll still predict La La Land.
That's a write-in for me. You know we're all on this train. It's not going to stop.
No, I'm not saying I'm going to change my predictions right now. I'm just saying that what if the narrative can change? I mean, like, remember 2 years ago, we were all saying it's over, it's going to be Boyhood. And then all of a sudden the industry started speaking and said, no, 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 it's going to be Birdman, you know, starting with the Producers Guild and then SAG and DGA. I'm just saying this is early enough in the year that something could, yeah. I mean, it's a speed bump.
It's not a wall.
Yeah. Now, the question is, what movie could win Best Picture over La La Land? I think the only 2 logical choices, given everything that's occurred so far in the race, would be either Moonlight or Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you in the sense that this is a troubling kind of portent for La La Land, but looking at those 2 likeliest alternatives, neither of those looks like a Best Picture to me. They're, you know, I mean, Moonlight, they don't award. I mean, it's a miracle that movie's getting so much support as it is, because films with that, you know, of that tone and that subject matter just never do well with the Academy. And Manchester by the Sea is a really kind of small, quiet indie film. It feels more like an acting, as you know, evidenced by SAG, and potentially a writing contender more than really a Best Picture winner. And I just don't see anything else. You know, maybe we could be talking about, you know, something like a Hacksaw Ridge. If that had gotten in, you know, that might be starting to look hotter and hotter. And it has that Best Picture feel. But yeah, you know, it's a slight speed bump, but it doesn't feel like there's anything that's really in a position to overtake La La Land yet.
I will add this, you know, the fact that La La Land was snubbed for Ensemble. Yeah, that's the big story of the day, but I think it's obviously still the front runner. Whereas if Manchester or Moonlight were snubbed today, that would have hurt those films tremendously. So it's good, you know.
But I've said this all these years on every type of big award show. If there's a front runner, they don't get taken down unless there's one alternative. The La La Land's best scenario is that Moonlight and Manchester are both kind of fighting it out in this second spot right now, because people will rally around both of them and they help La La Land even more, you know, be a strong front runner. You know, when we had, I say that like Gravity and 12 Years a Slave, Boyhood and Birdman, Spotlight and Revenant. Here, every time I hear one, Moonlight, I hear Manchester. They're like tied at the hip. They have nothing in common except they both start with an M. But I always hear them, you know, tied together in terms of like one of them is probably the second place.
Yeah, and they always get in the same categories too.
Which makes me want to wonder from all of you, because the prediction center, by the way, is open now. What's winning? It's one of those 2, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah. I've been entertaining a thought in my mind ever since these nominations came out, and I'm almost too excited to say it because I'm sure that it's not going to come true, but it's a possibility now. I think Moonlight could win this very easily, and then that could be the alternative to La La Land. I mean, because that winning Best Picture, just putting it out there, would send a strong message from the Academy. After 2 years of controversy over Oscars So White, to reward a film with an all-black cast and from an African-American writer-director, who would be the first African-American to win directing should he win. And
that sounds awfully familiar. I feel like we were having this conversation 3 years ago about 12 Years a Slave. And then so Moonlight's going to win Best Picture, and then it's going to be all white nominees in 2017 and 2018. So
exactly. Yeah, that's the Academy's way. It's like, okay, check that off, and we can move on from that. controversy.
Well, just for the moment, and I'll probably, I mean, who knows? I just look at numbers, and Manchester's got 3 individual nominations, so I'm got it in first right now just because of that. Moonlight's got 2, Hidden Figures has got 1, Fences has got 2, and Captain Fantastic has 1. So that's why I thought maybe there's a slight edge for Manchester, but you could be right.
I look at it this way. Manchester is kind of a one-man show, and yeah, there's 2 really strong supporting performances. Moonlight, you know, it's one character, but we see 3 different actors play him, and we see, you know, the family around him and Mahershala, and it feels more like an ensemble to me, whereas Manchester is one man's story. So I think that will help Moonlight. And
it has a very familiar, I mean, you go deeper into the cast, and I don't know. Let me see if they've got the list.
Yeah, I'm looking for
who's eligible. I'm clicking on it to see.
I'm looking for the largest cast. Which one has a larger cast of well-known people? Manchester has 6 people.
Oh, here we go.
7. So it's not like a big difference there, but
okay. Some of those people weren't eligible for Manchester. I thought like a Tate Donovan, that helps, and but Matthew Broderick's in, and Gretchen Mol and Kyle Chandler. That's a lot of people they like, and of course Michelle Williams and Casey.
Well, speaking of people that they like, what about Hidden Figures or Fences?
Fences. Watch out for Fences. Fences. I'm gonna look at that cast list now. There are 7 people on that list, but it's an ensemble movie, much more than any of these other films are. You know, you've got Viola and Denzel, who are individual nominees, and then you've got all of these, you know, Stephen McKinley Henderson, who he won the Tony as well, didn't he?
He was nominated for the Tony. He didn't win.
So he's, you know, every single one of these nominees is a major performance in that film, and there are so many group scenes in that. You know, that's one to watch for. That could be sort of the help this year in terms of, it's not going to help it for Best Picture, but that could be a Best Ensemble winner here.
I think
it's a very fun category.
Hidden Figures is the one I think that could upset Moonlight. You have
it has the largest cast.
It's not just the 3 leads who are all fantastic, but you have people like Kevin Costner in a supporting role.
Jim Parsons,
Aldous Hodge, Mahershala. Is he eligible there?
Yeah. Mahershala and Janelle Monáe are nominated for both films.
And this is a nomination that Hidden Figures really needed to stay in the best.
It really did.
Conversation. So.
I saw this with both of you guys, Zach and Chris, at a SAG screening, and there was a standing ovation at the end. I think we all knew, you know, we had that little bit of insight, but we knew it was getting in here today. So
when we were talking about that yesterday, we said we're trying to figure out what to, we didn't have Captain Fantastic, but we were trying to figure out what to put in, take out, whatever. And we said, remember that SAG screening? They loved it. And they laughed and applauded all through the movie. It wasn't just at the ending. So we both left it in there, and I was happy we did.
Right.
Slight correction. Captain Fantastic actually is the one with the largest cast list.
A lot of kids.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns, but well acted.
People like Frank Langella, though. I mean, people they endowed, people they really like.
And this movie is written and directed by an actor. Matt Ross. So
is Fences.
That's right. Yeah.
Well directed. We need to move on to other categories.
Yeah. Before we move on, I just want to add, The Revenant got snubbed last year for SAG Ensemble, but that did not stop a lot of people, including me, from predicting it for Best Picture at the Oscars.
Well, that's true. We thought, okay, that's just another. But yeah, last year was every time we turned around, there was another rule being broken. So
last year was also one of the weirdest SAG nomination lists of all time. So we can be. Although I picked Spotlight just to brag a little bit, but
okay, bragger. Who's gonna win Best Actor? We have Casey Affleck, Andrew Garfield, Ryan Gosling, Viggo Mortensen, Denzel Washington.
Well, I think this is definitely between Denzel and Casey Affleck. I think working in Denzel Washington's favor is the fact that he has never won a SAG award, ever.
Right.
And I think they may want to correct that and just give it to him on the basis of that alone.
I've got him in first for the moment, but boy, that's a fun race. I mean, all the way to the end, that's going to be a fun race. And Globes won't help us too much because Casey's never won there. Denzel's won 3 times maybe, and plus has the Cecil B. DeMille last year. So they may not feel a need there. I think they love when actors become directors in this one unique branch of, a guild, So I think that might help Denzel as well, just a little bit, like, hey, good for you, breaking out of the acting pack and directing again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, that feels, I mentioned this when we were talking about Globes. I feel like, especially, and here, especially with so much support for Manchester and Fences too, but Manchester in the lead, I just get a sense that, this is going to be where all the Manchester support rallies, while La La Land is Best Picture and, Casey, it feels like it's going to be a debate until we start seeing Casey just run away with everything. And I feel like then at the Oscars, it's going to be Manchester for Best Actor and Best Screenplay, and that will be what it wins for not winning Best Picture.
Well, whoever wins this category is going to my #1 slot for the Oscars. That's for sure.
Right. I have Casey. Just basically what Daniel said. It's when you look at Fences, when you think of Fences, what do you think of? You think of Viola Davis.
No, I think it's Denzel.
You think Denzel, but everyone else in the world thinks Viola Davis.
No, I think Viola's the easier winner. Viola's easily winning her category, but the whole play and movie is about his character.
Yeah, I went into Fences. I hadn't seen the play. I went in thinking, okay, is Viola going to win this? And I walked out thinking Denzel could win this. So it's definitely not just the Viola show.
The thing to think, also the whole landscape for the season. Let's say what I said is true about Globes. They don't feel a real need necessarily to honor Denzel again. So Casey wins there. Denzel's not winning BAFTA. He might not even get nominated at BAFTA. Fences is not going to be a BAFTA kind of movie. Viola might not even win there. So Casey's probably going to win at BAFTA, although look out for somebody like an Andrew Garfield, who's had a banner year. So Denzel really has to win SAG. I mean, that's maybe the only place he does win going in.
If I had a personal, vote, if I was a SAG voter, I would vote for Andrew Garfield. He had, not just Hacksaw, but that in the back of your mind, you're thinking he also was really good in Silence. He gave 2 phenomenal performances this year.
2 really tough. I'm interviewing him this weekend. I want to ask him a question somewhat along the lines of, man, you could take on just a dialogue-oriented, romantic comedy occasionally. You don't have to do these strenuous, physical, all the back-to-back. I mean, these things just had to wear him out.
Yeah.
So we've been talking for a few weeks about, Best Actress and whether the SAG voters will go for Emma Stone, who plays an actress, or whether they'll go for Natalie Portman, who kind of becomes a brand new person, a brand new character in Jackie. So, Daniel, who do you think actually wins now that we've seen the nominations? And the other ones, by the way, are Amy Adams, Emily Blunt, and Meryl Streep.
This is a tough one for me. This is tougher for Best Actor for me. Like all throughout the season, it's felt sort of like Emma Stone has been almost inevitable, to go along with the Best Picture winner. We saw it didn't get into Best Ensemble, and that makes me think, okay, after the Critics' Choice win for Natalie Portman, and the fact that Jackie is so much, this performance by Natalie Portman is so much more the kind that wins the Oscar more than usually the Emma Stone type performance. I wonder if this is going to be the kind of pivot point, like with Eddie Redmayne, Michael Keaton, where we thought it was going to go one way, the actor playing the actor, or the actor playing a real character and giving a physical transformation, where that just tilts. So, the fact that La La Land wasn't just a little bit stronger to get that ensemble nomination, and Jackie is such acting catnip, I'm really not sure which way I'm going to go. I might eventually pull a Tom O'Neill when he went rogue and predicted Eddie Redmayne for Theory of Everything. I might predict Natalie Portman in this race.
Well, I think Natalie's the front runner. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that are You know, the Tom O'Neill thing you bring up, Tom was the only one picking Eddie. I think this will be more split, where there'll be maybe half and half. So
The weird thing here, though, well, a couple of things. Globes won't help us at all. They're both going to win because they're in different categories. BAFTA is going to go Natalie. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing they would, I think, totally go for. The weird thing here is we've got somewhat of an opposite situation from Michael, forget the actor part, from Michael Keaton to Eddie Redmayne, in that Eddie Redmayne was kissing every baby and holding every hand and going to every party and going to every reception, and incredibly likable. And that's what Emma Stone is really doing this season. She's dedicated the last few weeks and the next few weeks to this thing. And Natalie, having won before, and also the fact that she's about to have a baby, is just not able to do that. So
she could kiss her own baby after it comes out, and then
that'll be fun, though. She could tweet that out. So that makes me wonder about Emma. And then you throw in the fact that it's it's not even just an actress; it's a struggling actress who is auditioning all through the movie, and then she gets the big song toward the end that's just her and a black screen. All those things I think help her. And going back to the Eddie Redmayne, we didn't know how. I hope he's not watching, but I mean, how few people like Michael Keaton. That didn't help him either. I mean, everybody likes Natalie Portman. That's not comparable. But I think that helped Eddie Redmayne too, because Birdman actually won Ensemble. So it wasn't like they didn't like Birdman. This is a fun race. I'm so glad the two lead races. I think we will, for the Oscars, it's not going to be fun, because whoever wins these two SAG races is going to win the Oscar.
Zach, what do you think?
Well, it's really interesting because none of the women in this category have a film that's nominated in ensembles. So it's,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's which we thought La La Land would be the one, but I'm predicting Emma Stone right now, just because, like Denzel Washington, she has a SAG award as a part of the ensemble of Birdman, but she does not have an individual one. And I think SAG actors, based on their history, they like to give everybody at least one award in their lifetime.
This is TV, where they'll give 8.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely, not to sound like a parrot, but this is definitely between Stone and Portman. Can we just say, I mean, Emily Blunt is sort of a surprise inclusion here.
I loved her performance, though. I when the movie didn't perform all that well, I started thinking, okay, if it's the only way she was getting in at like Globes and Oscars and all that was if it was like a blockbuster, like Gone Girl. Mm-hmm. So I loved the performance, though. I'm glad she's here.
No, I love her too. I thought the movie was, but I think this is also. No, of course not. I think that this is also makeup for the fact that she hasn't gotten in for Sicario. She hasn't gotten in for The Devil Wears Prada. She hasn't gotten in for The Young Victoria, on and on and on. So it's nice for her to finally be nominated for something. I am a little heartbroken that it was at the expense of Annette Bening in 20th Century Women.
And me for Jessica Chastain.
Yes.
And me for Ruth Negga.
And you for Isabel too, Zach.
Yes, Isabel. Isn't that something? This is such a strong Best Actress race at the Oscars that we just named 4 people who could have, on any other day, easily been nominated.
It's funny. I kept thinking that there were 3 people for Best Actress for like 2 last slots, and now there are 4.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm looking at that 5 going, 4 of those I think are getting in. I've been saying Meryl Streep for a while, and hardly anybody was. I think she was in 11th place with us.
I put her in.
I think those 4, take out Emily Blunt, put in Isabel, who's the classic case of, especially in recent years, of a foreign language performance, especially somebody they respect and that's older. That's your lineup, I think, at the Oscars. Isabel replacing Emily.
I agree with you.
Annette Bening is the one that's really going to be disappointed.
Interesting. Well, before we run out of time, let's talk about these supporting races. Supporting actor is Mahershala Ali, Jeff Bridges, Hugh Grant, Lucas Hedges, and Dev Patel. No huge surprises here, right? These were all on our radar, Chris.
Yeah, the ones I wrote down that didn't get in, but they weren't. I think these were the five: Kevin Costner, Michael Shannon, Ben Foster, and the Silence guys.
You say I've got to.
But this is Mahershala Ali from last week all the way through the Oscars. It's just like many other years where, and that's fun. That's interesting because it's funny how a race will flip. Last year, supporting actor was the one that turned out to be, quite interesting all the way to the last second.
Yeah, and I think these are probably going to be our 5 nominees at the Oscars too, barring some kind of surprise.
Even Hugh Grant.
Florence Foster Jenkins has been making a comeback, man. That could even be a Best Picture nominee. Like, they clearly love that movie. I bet you it came in really close to getting an ensemble nomination. It's probably going to be a factor in categories like costumes and score.
And
Maybe
hair and makeup.
Yeah, hair and makeup. So look out for Florence Foster Jenkins.
And it's Stephen Frears. Remember how Philomena was, it seemed like, okay, maybe Judi Dench for a while, and then it just kept building and building, and then Best Picture, Best Screenplay. That could be Florence Foster Jenkins this year. This was a category where it seemed like there were 4 safe nominees, and I was looking for clarity on the 5th. And after the lead acting nomination at the Golden Globes, and now the supporting actor nomination here, I immediately moved Hugh Grant into my Oscar predictions.
And he wants it too. He's been working the circuit.
He's been working. He really has. He even did an interview with us.
This would.
Don't make it sound like that.
I didn't mean for it to sound like that, but he I don't think there's a version of Hugh Grant over the years that I don't think would have been doing web chats. And he said before we started recording that it was his first ever web chat. So,
well, maybe we got the Gold Derby bump. So
that's right.
I'll give a word of advice to Mahershala and to Viola for the next category we'll talk about. You guys are going to win a lot this awards season, so we hope you find a way to make each speech different, because we don't want to hear, Oscar voters don't want to hear the same thing over and over and over and over. I'm thinking,
that's a good point too. I was going to say on the Globe, because that's the one place where we'll see Natalie and Emma on stage. It's speaking of auditions, it's sort of an odd. I mean, if it's going to be that tight of a race, and we don't know that it is, but if it's down to just say a handful of votes, how they come across at the Globes might affect the SAG voters, which might affect the Oscar voters. So.
And given speech fatigue, I think actually Viola might be relieved that she's not nominated for the Globe for How to Get Away with Murder, and she's not nominated now for SAG for How to Get Away with Murder, because she's already given a combined, like, between Emmys and SAG, 3 or 4 speeches for How to Get Away with Murder in the last few years. She gave 2 speeches this past week at Critics' Choice. She doesn't want to be up there too much, because she's not going to have anything left she's going to exhaust all the words in the dictionary, and she won't have anything left.
She's really good at it, though. I mean, she's good at it. Great on stage in these situations, and I think she's going to join us in the next 3 or 4 or 5 days.
All right, yeah.
And Viola's competition is Naomi Harris, Nicole Kidman, Octavia Spencer, Michelle Williams. I think if anyone upsets her, it might be Michelle Williams. But watch out for Octavia Spencer. If they really, really love Hidden Figures, I could see that.
I think it's all Viola, though. I think it's Viola.
I think it's similar to, when Chris says you need just one alternative. In this case, it could be Michelle, but it could be Naomi. Clearly they love Moonlight. And that's a much larger role than Michelle Williams has in Manchester by the Sea, and it's even showier. So, I think actually Naomi Harris might be in second place there.
That's what I have. No, I may have Michelle Williams. It's like those 3, and then Nicole and Octavia have won. They've won before. I don't see a big push. Well, Viola's won a lot of SAGs. I don't think that's going to impact her, though. I think she made an incredibly smart decision weeks ago on going supporting, I think. She wasn't going to beat Natalie and Emma.
And then
I don't think so.
Stunt Ensemble, we have Captain America, Civil War, Doctor Strange, Hacksaw Ridge, Jason Bourne, and Nocturnal Animals.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Hacksaw
Ridge by default. It's the only film that they like anywhere else, and it's a war movie. I don't even see a competition there, really.
I should say, just going back to supporting actress for a quick second, I think those are going to be our 5 nominees at the Oscars as well. Although I still hold out some hope that Greta Gerwig could get in by the time.
I think 4 out of the 5. I'm not 100% on Octavia yet.
Right. But this and the
It
Golden
helps.
Globe
It
nomination.
definitely helps.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, any final thoughts here before we do the TV one? La La Land, wow. That gave me a jaw dropper, literally. Like, I couldn't believe what I was watching.
It's a blip, just a little blip.
And I'm especially happy for Mahershala Ali, a 3-time nominee, probably almost a 4-time nominee of House of Cards. If he had been on the cast list for House of Cards, if that had gotten in for TV drama, he's been nominated for that before in the ensemble cast. But good for him. Like I'm always especially happy when a character actor, especially one I've been watching for a while, kind of breaks through in a big way, and this really feels like just his year. And even Luke Cage got a stunt ensemble nomination for TV, which we'll talk about. So he's got a lot of stuff going on at these awards this year.
You heard it here first, folks. Moonlight for Best Picture.
Mm.
Barry Jenkins for Best Director.
And go make your predictions for the SAG Awards and for Oscars and Golden Globes and everything at Gold Derby. We'll see you guys next time.